Welcome back. This is still the POLITY reaching you live from Abuja. I've been joined in the studio now by Dr. Mefor. He is a social scientist and a policy analyst to discuss the issues bordering on the state of the nation today. Good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It's good to have you.
Thank you for hosting me once more.
Thank you so much. All right, so let's start with the most recent news. Some hours ago, the news broke that the Supreme Court has, squashed or quashed the ruling by the appeal courts on the issue of Nnamdi Kanu and him being let go, saying that even though that the Nigerian government did err in the manner in which they brought him back from Kenya, it was not enough to stop the proceedings, and the suggestion was that he take it up as a civil case or that the other case continues. What's your take on this whole saga so far and how it's developing?
Well, I would say that I wasn't particularly surprised. Even though I also expected the government to take the political route, because this is actually a political problem. And treating it as purely a criminal matter, a criminal action, is not bringing any plausible solution to the problem, as it were. The Supreme Court, yes, followed what you may call legalism. Yes, he was standing trial already before he was extraordinarily renditioned from Kenya to Nigeria. And so the position of the Supreme Court from legal perspective is generally okay. That the court, Binta Nyako, her lordship court, that has been trying to Nnamdi Kanu before the extraordinary rendition, wouldn't mind or bother the way and manner he was brought back to her court. Do you understand that? She would just pretend, because he wasn't brought back from Kenya, for commencement of trial or to be tried. Do you understand that? So the government would simply pretend that they don't know how he came back to, from Kenya to Nigeria. So you will see that his extraordinary rendition technically is a different issue altogether. That could be taken up. I really don't know how. It's not a good wind at all, and therefore cannot blow anybody any good. Not the Southeast people, not Nigeria as a country. Don't forget that Nnamdi Kanu, essentially, it has been the reason or the factor given by what we call sit-at-home enforcers, who say that unless Nnamdi Kanu is released, that there will be no peace in the Southeast. That is also not to say that those enforcers are solely responsible for insecurity in the Southeast. You have at least 5 different groups, independent groups, that perpetrate or contribute to perpetration of insecurity in the Southeast. Well, for me, I think the political angle will have to be more vigorously pursued by the political leaders of the Southeast and their friends across the country. One thing I know is that President Tinubu himself is an activist. He came to limelight through Nadeko activism, right? So he's an activist. And this whole thing about Biafra agitation is political activism for what you may call inclusivity, because I don't even see the real meat of Biafra agitation to be for what you may call ultimately realizing the sovereignty of Biafra as an independent entity from Nigeria. I wouldn't really think so. I believe that if there is full inclusion in the polity, those who are agitating will find space for themselves in the polity, where they can now channel their energy towards development of their own areas. I was asked on Nnamdi Kanu, how about, have you thought of a Senator Nnamdi Kanu You know, I say, have you, because we've been friends. Do you understand that? We've been friends. When he was in Kuje, I visited him 2-3 times. You know, when he was released, 2017, I went to Umuahia at least 3 times, you know, to see him and all that. So there is a measure of, you know, relationship that we shared, even though we have been quarreling about the methods and all this. In principle, I agree with the issue of Biafra agitation, because it has to do with inclusivity or inclusion over the Southeast in the scheme of things. And those who really want peace to return to the Southeast, like myself, will have to do a lot more. President Tinubu has the power through his Attorney General to enter what we call no prosecu, no le prosecu, discontinuation of trial, a criminal trial. The court cannot force the Attorney General not to withdraw a case he instituted. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's no rule that says so. Whoever has instituted a case reserves the right to continue or not. So my appeal remains.
Don't you think this would have ripple effects even in other regions of the country where people feel that, well, it seems this person is getting special treatment, you know? What
special treatment has Nnamdi Kanu been given? I haven't seen any special treatment.
No, I mean, if
the extraordinary rendition, a special treatment.
I'm talking about.
I believe they have gotten the short end of the stick in this whole thing. Yes, some infractions, you know, have been committed. We can't admit that much. But how about the context, the perspective? Anything you want to evaluate and evaluate it correctly must be done within the context. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not a personal struggle. Do you get the point? He is not pushing to lift oil to enrich himself. He's not pushing for any economic gain out of this. So it's, you know, it's not really a personal struggle. It's a struggle he is waging for the inclusion of his own people. So I don't see that as different from what someone like Monday is it Monday or Sunday is doing. Do you understand that? But it's not standing there the trial.
But don't you think at some point, you know, lines began to be crossed where it left just an issue of speech and became incitement? Do you think that's really what is the issue?
Yeah, that is what the trial is about. And the veracity of that is what the Bintanyako court is supposed to establish. But I am saying that even if lines have been crossed, right? Is still a political problem that can be resolved politically. That's the point I'm making. You know, and for me, the earlier you end this nightmare, the better for everybody. Because the more you keep Nnamdi Kanu down, the implication is that those who believe in him, right, will get more and more hardened. You know, it's just like when IPOB was proscribed as a terrorist organization. I may be very clear that this is a very wrong decision. No matter the technicalities you deployed or employed to justify that an IPOB is a terrorist organization, I don't even know where they based all that, you know. But the fact remains that you can't, you know, solve a political problem, right? A political problem, an ideological problem, by driving the agitators on the ground. That was what happened. By doing so, you know, the hardliners that IPOB members went underground. You know, so you can't even negotiate with them. Luckily, a court in Enugu has ruled that IPOB is not. You understand what I'm saying? And since the federal government did not appeal that judgment, it means that today, technically, IPOB has been proscribed by the courts. You know, so let us take it a notch further. Do you understand that? Take it a notch further. Grant, you know, you know, should I say pardon, right? Amnesty. You know, some would say, why grant amnesty when the person has not been found guilty? You know, if you told that route, right, that the person has not been found guilty and therefore, you can talk about amnesty. What you are indirectly saying is that the legal process will have to run its full course, so that guilt or otherwise will be established. But this will take time. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Yeah. Because Bintayako's court is court of first instance in this trial. There will still be rooms for appeal at the Court of Appeal and at the Supreme Court. This can, because this is a political trial, it can take another 5 years. So why wait for 5 years to I'm not saying it must be, but I know that if federal government is interested in a case, they will use the office of the Attorney General to keep frustrating the case for as long as they want. So that's why I believe that the faster route to travel will be to get the federal government to look at this matter from political perspective and drop the legal prism. Right. If they do that, we will get a solution within a month, and this whole thing ends, and peace returns to the southeast, and then the agitators, persuaded to take the political route and participate in politics. Since they have the numbers, they can elect some of themselves as governors, as senators, as House of Reps members, and they can come to the National Assembly and present the case of that inclusion that they are demanding. Look at what is happening in Cameroon. If you go to southern Cameroon, you will see that those who are demanding, I think, a Republic of Amazonia or something like that, they are all there in the Cameroon parliament. We need to have all these agitators in Nigeria converge in Nigerian National Assembly and debate the issues, so that we can follow the legislative process, readjust the country in a way that it will enter all of us. That this is what this whole thing is all about. It's achievable. And this is the first time since 1999 that Nigeria is electing, a complete politician, an activist as president. So I believe we're not dealing with the retired general here. We are dealing with an activist. So he will understand it. If the matter is articulated properly and pursued properly, in a way and manner that Tinubu will take credit. If he don't do it that way, he will not be interested.
Well, that's fair enough. We'll see how the federal government considers these options. Yeah. So moving forward, another matter that has been dominating the airlines and airways since over the week is the issue of the Rivers State tussle. I'd like to get your thoughts on that, even going with the issues of demolition, with commissioners resigning. We have allegedly some lawmakers returning after leaving, and so on and so forth. What do you make of this whole saga and the fact that Rivers State is going through this just less than a year into the administration of the new governor, Sim Fubara?
Well, Sim Fubara is fighting a battle for survival. And his godfather is also fighting a battle of continued relevance in the affairs of Rivers State. They understand that, because he wouldn't want to lose a grip, not necessarily because of Fubara the governor. No. He has many political enemies, people he stepped on their toes when he was governor before he migrated to Abuja as the FCT minister. For example, Chibika Amechi and all this. So he would want to remain relevant, so that it's not rubbish and relegated to the background. In other words, this fight for the soul of Rivers State may not be, if we really look beyond the facade, you see that it's not about Fubara, as the governor. I really don't think that Wike has any personal problem with Fubara as governor. But I have the feeling that he believes that Fubara is not really, that he is becoming slippery, right? And he believes that rather than allow him to be validated by the Supreme Court, after which holding him to anything may become impossible, the time to get him is now. there's an adage in Igbo land. It says, that when you are holding the strong man down, it is the time you should remove the machete from him, right? It's not where he stands. Because once he stands, as a strong man, if he stands wielding a machete or a weapon like of that magnitude, certainly you have lost all the advantage. That is the summary of what is going on in Rivers State. For me, I think that both sides will have to make concessions. Do you understand what I'm saying? I believe that Wike still has a lot of role to play in resolving this impasse. Yes, 27 honorable members, defected from PDP to APC, citing what they called crisis in the PDP. And, that is one of the lacunas you find in the Nigerian laws, clearly defining what you call crisis in a political party. I'm not aware that the PDP is factionalized. For you to see a faction in any organization, the ESCO must split. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So it can't simply be a Governor Sims PDP and...
no, it's not. It can't be, because Fubara is not PDP, even in Rivers State. Do you understand what I'm saying?
It's not PDP?
I said he doesn't constitute PDP himself, PDP as a political party.
Okay.
So the point I am trying to make is that for you to say that there is crisis in PDP, PDP ESCO must split into two. PDP, what we call the Board of Trustees must split. The National Working Committee must split. So you see members, these are leaders of the party, you see them in different camps. That is what will convince any judge that there is faction. But if you find, if you see some fringe members moving from one party to another, that happens all the time. So since this hasn't happened in a PDP, I don't think it is charitable to say that PDP is experiencing any faction. So you can see that they brought that in as a convenient excuse to give, to justify their jumpology, jumping from PDP to APC.
But isn't they at in any real risk of losing their seats?
Of course, I believe they have already lost their seats. I say so. As at now, as we speak, their political future is in the hands of Fubara. One or two of them have actually started retracing. I think one has gone back. I believe that Fubara will be glad to welcome him back. And there is still that window. For them, the entirety of them can return under conditions. For example, you sign an oath of allegiance with the governor to secure him and ensure that this would be the last. Do you understand what I'm saying? But of course, you don't expect that the 27 of them will return. The die-hard will never come back. Like the same one that caused the fight 10 years ago in Rivers House of Assembly. About 5 of them, moved the motion to impeach Chibika Amici as governor, if you recall. Right? That, amongst them you find a man like Honorable Chinda, and so he's in federal house, he's in House of Reps now, right? Since last term. This will be his second term, if not the third. But they were the ones that started this. 5 of them attempted to impeach Amici as a city governor. Now, it is the same person that moved that motion. I can't remember his full name now. It is the same person that moved the motion to remove Amici, right, as governor, that has become the speaker that was removed by the faction, right? Now, you can see history repeating itself 10 years after. The same person that moved that motion, became the speaker 10 years after, and he continued that in that trajectory with the move to remove Fubara as the governor.
But just very quickly, speaking about impeachment, is this something that is so easy? Is it just a simple thing where once the majority agrees, it can be done?
You know, the procedure. The procedure is that based on I can't remember the section of the Constitution now. But the conditions for the removal of a governor, one of them is impeachment, right? Just like the removal of the president, is to for majority of them to sign that the governor should be removed. It doesn't stop there.
Do they need a reason?
They can come up with any reason. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's contrived. It's contrived so they can say anything. And but it has to go beyond then the House of Assembly in Rivers State, or any House of Assembly for that matter, and go to the office of the Chief Judge of the state, who will now constitute a panel to investigate the allegation. And that constitutional provision is so flimsy to the point that all you are expected to say is that the governor is guilty of the allegations or not. Look, see, famous. The fact remains that if you really look, there is no way you will not find one infraction or the other. There must be something to pin on anybody. And then once that allegation, no matter however flimsy, is established, the panel is not even supposed to say that you're guilty or you're not guilty. All the panel is expected to say is that the allegation is true. And then the House will vote a second time. And once 2/3 votes a second time, you are gone and gone forever. So all these things can happen in a week. You pass it the first time. I think the Chief Judge of the state has a window within which to constitute a panel that will do the investigation and all that. But I know that all this is, this thing can be done in a week and the governor is impeached. So you can now understand the strategic move made by the governor, by pulling down the house where they ought to meet. Do you understand that? Now it is difficult for them to converge anywhere and it will become valid, because one is that in the presidential democracy you have the three arms, right? And they have a zone. It's not everywhere you see. They cannot move to a primary school now and call it a House of Assembly of Rivers State. Of course, the law will not recognize that. So what Fubara did, which for me, it may look or sound crude and extreme, but in the circumstance, how many options does he have? So what he did was to pull down the structure and tell you that there was a bomb blast and the integrity of the building has suffered, and that he can no longer guarantee the security of the honorable members who will be sitting there.
One wonders if that in itself is not an impeachable offense.
No, it's not. How can it be an impeachable offense? Is it not true that the place suffered bomb explosion?
Well, we're still not gotten to the conclusion. I don't believe
it's not, because it's an executive issue. The building is not in the powers of the legislature or the legislators to rebuild their own complex. It's an executive responsibility. So it is within the purview of the governor, right, to decide to do something about the structure. And the reason he has given is possible because the bomb blast, everybody knew it happened. So that gave him a very convenient excuse to pull down the place. We know that is not the reason, but the reason he has given is possible and can stand before the law. You see where the problem is. And now he has now moved the legislators into the government house, those that are amenable to him. What that means now is that those who have defected to APC, for you to now join you have to return to the government house, and he decides who will now cross the gate. You see where the problem is? So that is how absurd our democracy has become. What we do in Nigeria and call it democracy is state capture. A clique, it's an elite conspiracy to hijack the entire state, right? to hijack the entire state. That is why the battle is a struggle for the control of the soul of Rivers State. It's not. It's the soul. Do you understand that? And Wike wants total allegiance to him by the governor. But
what cards do you think the minister has to play here? You've spoken about the governor and what he can do, but one wonders how much power does the minister still have? The fact that 27 lawmakers went with him, the fact that commissioners are still resigning, the fact that people left and right are sort of dropping, even though I wouldn't say Governor Fubara isn't also gaining some. We just saw from the former governor, the ministers, what's it called, the local government.
Yeah.
Some ward members, leaders there have supported the governor now. So that's an instance. But the fact that 27 lawmakers, commissioners, one wonders what leverage is he using at this point?
I'm surprised that people are saying the exit of the commissioners as a loss to Fubara. It's not true. He didn't appoint them. This is part of the problem. I understand that of all the commissioners, he appointed only 1 or 2, perhaps 3. So if they resign, it is to Fubara's advantage. And those who are resigning now don't want to stay in the web. They don't want to stay. One of them is a professor. There are things you just can't put up with.
Oh, you don't think it's a sign of solidarity with the minister?
Yes, it's a sign of solidarity with the minister, but they're not doing him any good by moving away. Yeah. So if you leave if you leave a party that will continue after you have left, what have you achieved? They needed to stay around. Do you understand what I'm saying? And help in putting pressure on the governor to reconcile with the godfather. If you leave, Fubara by now is already shortlisting those that will take their place, because nature abhors a vacuum. And however we look at it, the resignation of the commissioners that is now culminating into some what some people have called an exodus is playing to the advantage of the governor. It is, because if you resign, you become an ordinary person. You can no longer sit in the state executive council. Then you can't say anything.
So is that the same with the 27 lawmakers too, whose defective?
They are outsiders now. You see, they have a problem. And you see, if the only force that will restore them, if they don't follow the political process, is the Supreme Court. And this will take another 2 years. That's the problem. I believe that their action was hasty. Do you understand that? And they keep underestimating Fubara. This guy I see. Do you understand that? Yes. What worries me where he is the level of calmness. Do you understand that? Yeah. The level of calmness, the kind of calmness you see in a general that has a total control of his environment. Bombs are dropping here and there, and he doesn't care. In other words, if you see a bird in the middle of the road, right, dancing, listen well. The drummers, they are somewhere in the bush. Some are seen, some are not seen. I already talked about somebody like Amechi, that is a wounded lion. Naturally, he will form alliance with Fubara by now. And the elders of Rivers are already talking in favor of the governor. For example, the elder statesman, Chief Edwin Clark, he has spoken, calling on the president to prevail on the FCT minister to retrace his steps. So when you have such a such a conglomeration, of the owners of a river state, so to speak, gravitating towards the governor, he establishes confidence. What that means is that the court of public opinion will support him, and not only that, those who constitute what we call opinion leaders in River State, majority of them are also on the side of the governor. So the question we now asked, where does all those leave the FCT minister? He still has a window. Do you understand that? accept a truce, accept a compromise, renegotiate with their godson, I still believe that that window exists. You know, but I believe that, you know, the governor will fight to the bitter end.
Is it also not too late? Assuming they
for the governor,
for both of them, if they reach a truce, do the 27 lawmakers return to the PDP? You know, how does that work? They
left because of Wike. If Wike says return to PDP, they will be back within 24 hours. They will, and they don't live on their own. They have no reason to leave. You know, that's why we keep saying that there is a problem in our leadership recruitment process. When a governor takes over the entire state, dispenses the favor, and appoints people. It's not just in rivers, everywhere in Nigeria. What they want to visit on Fubara, did it not happen in Lagos? And but they couldn't return for second time. For the same reason. His godfather, now the president, didn't want him to continue. Do you understand that? But rivers may not be Lagos. So the scenario is a bit different. And that is why it's not playing out with what we may call the exactitude that we witnessed in a place like Lagos. You know, and it's all over the place. It didn't happen only in Lagos, it happened in Anambra State. The first governor of Anambra State since this current dispensation, Dr. Chinwoke Mbadinoju, could not return because the godfather said no. You know, so, and if you look around, you still see some who suffer the same fate. So what you say is, where godfathers are responsible for political recruitment of who is who. That is why as many as 27 lawmakers will follow the past governor, because that's where their allegiance is. Of course, people may come out and say, well, FCT minister, Wike does not have a hand. Well, you can say all that. But we are not fools now. We are not blind, right? Things don't happen for nothing now. Things are happening in rivers and they are orchestrated. And if the FCT minister is not involved, why was he summoned to the villa by the president along with the governor? Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. What that means is that even if all of us don't know anything, the president of the country is aware. And that is why he's trying to broker peace. And I still believe that President Tinubu still holds the 4 aces. He should prevail on the FCT minister to reach out to his godson and renegotiate. I believe that there is negotiation that is not playing out well. They can renegotiate behind the closed doors. We weren't there when they negotiated his governorship now. Do you understand what I'm saying? If the terms are no longer realistic, prove it now. You know, and within reasonableness, you know, something can be renegotiated in such a way as not to affect the fortunes of Rivers State and not make a Wike appear to be a loser. Do you understand what I'm saying? Fubara should continue to see himself as the senior prefect of the Wike camp. That's what I recommend.
All right, I think that's fair enough on that situation. We'll see how it turns out. Although no one has outrightly claimed responsibility for anything, but that is the nature of politics.
Yeah.
But so let's quickly move over to another news. About a day or two ago, the Academic Staff Union of universities across, members everywhere, jubilated that you know, varsities and polytechnics, I believe, and others were removed from the IPPIS system. What do you think that that decision does for the education sector?
That was one of the things we pleaded with Buhari to do as president. So look, the academia is a peculiar environment, and bunching them up with the civil service, so to speak, in the integrated salary system, it will not all go well. And ASU has argued along this line that, look, there are things that we do that cannot wait for this bureaucracy. It will impede our progress. It will impede our performance and all that. Input, output, outcomes. And I believe they proved their case. They also went to the extent of proposing an alternative. Can't remember the name now. But there was an alternative also provided, which federal government then accepted in principle, but claimed that it did not pass integrity test. That was under Buhari with Dr. Chris Nwabezengige as Minister of Labor. And Tinubu has now decided to take a different route, by saying, look, pull these people out of IPPIS, right? In line with what they have actually demanded for long now. I believe it's a very important, significant, positive development for which the president should be commended. And the rest will be in the detail. But I also do know that bringing out ASU from IPPIS is not the only key problem they have. The president should go the whole hog and address, many of the myriad of problems the academia is suffering or has been undergoing over time. Take for instance, I attended a program days ago, and in that program, they were looking at it was an EU inspired program, and there they were trying to find proposed solutions on how to use ICT, digital technology, to transform and revolutionize farming in Nigeria. Do you understand that? Yeah. You can see a targeted research. What we call town and gown. The academia in Nigeria does not service the industry directly. These are very critical things that need to be addressed. How our citadel of learning should be able to deal with specific needs. An example of which I just gave. EU, another body from outside Nigeria, even though it's an international organization, Nigeria is not a member. But they are here sponsoring research on how to use technology to change farming in Nigeria. What happens to Nigerian universities? Do you get my point? So there are critical issues that must be addressed. Another is what we call the university autonomy. So that individual universities will be able to regulate their activities with the National University Commission as a kind of a supervisory agency, a kind of quality controller. Do you understand that? But we ought to have, fair autonomy for the universities, indeed the tertiary institutions, as long as they are able to prove how that can help productivity. What we have in Nigeria today is not what tertiary education ought to be, particularly at the university level. And if you look at our curriculum, you will discover that the curriculum or curricula, they do not quite, you see solutions. The curricula are addressing solutions propounded 2, 3, 4 decades ago. Times have changed. For example, we talked about digitization being deployed to farming, right? This concept was not conceivable some 2 decades ago. Do you understand that? Because as at that time, you don't have the disruption you call the internet now, right? You don't have that disruption. But now that you have it, have you now adjusted your educational or academic curricula to be in line with these newer emerging challenges? We haven't. We have not. So the president needs to go the whole hog. He needs a technical committee to really study what is going on in the university system And after doing that, sit down with ASU and agree on what should be implemented, things that are implementable, and all that. That is the kind of approach that will give us a better university system in Nigeria, so that we will once more be at par with their contemporaries in advanced countries of the world. They were at that point before. Right. They lost it somewhere along the line. They have to be restored to it.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Law. It's been a pleasure speaking to you and getting your thoughts on these issues.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, the pleasure is mine.
All right. That's how we round up the program for today and for this week. Don't forget, the Polity reaches you live from Abuja every weekday, 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. See you next week. Have a nice weekend. Thank God it's Friday. See you on Monday. Bye for now. I'm Amadin Ogbewe.